Today we're going to talk about the Civil War, and as you can see here, have the Union flag and the Confederate flag. Most people always relate the Confederate flag to the stars and bars, but this is actually the official Confederate flag. The Civil War in Texas. There are three types of effects we're going to talk about: political, economic, and social effects. The political effects, of course, they change countries. So when Texas joined the Confederate States of America, we know that Houston was removed from office because he said he was not going to sign a loyalty oath to the Confederacy. Also, the other thing is that they had to enact a conscription act in order to raise an army. So 60,000 Texans joined the Confederate Army. The economic effects of the Civil War in Texas included shortages of commodities such as coffee, medicine, clothing, salt, and paper. Some of these things were alleviated or made happen due to trade along the Mexican border, which continued to supply some of these items to Texans. Cotton production declines and corn and wheat production increases. And I think that's really because you can't feed soldiers cotton. You have to feed them something they can eat. So therefore, corn and wheat production increases. Of course, there was a shortage of free labor, and because some of the slaves, of course, were able to get to be free. So the labor was used elsewhere. Some of that labor was used in the war effort, and so there was not as much help on the farms or the plantations. Also, there was inadequate production in agriculture and business, and therefore, if you have those things decreasing, then there's not as much money to be able to buy things. The social effects: there were greater responsibilities for women and children during the war. Of course, when the men of the family, the older brothers and the fathers went off to war, running the farm and producing all these things fell upon the women and the children. And of course, as all wars, there are loss of family members. Okay, so this is what your map project should have looked like. Of course, we had different colors, but this is what it should have looked like. Here we see the slave states and the free states and the territories. All of the ones in blue were free states. All the ones that are in a different color than the slave state are territories. Notice that there are some slave states, however, that did fight for the Union: West Virginia, Kentucky, and Missouri. United States of America is also known as the Union. The North were usually in blue, and their flag was the stars and stripes for their battle flag. Confederate States of America, known as the Confederacy or the South, usually in gray or tan, and their battle flag was the stars and bars. Cause 1: sectionalism. And we know sectionalism basically means that the North had different ideas about how to do things than the South, therefore growing distrust and dislike between northern and southern states. Issues included economics, slavery, states' rights, and it causes northern and southern states to become more divided. Southern states did not feel fairly represented in Congress because their population was not nearly as high as those in northern states. The South had a longer growing season, which was great for agriculture, mainly cotton. It was easy to find transportation to European ports to have cotton made into cloth. So there was really no need for factories because they just shipped it off and it came back as cloth. With slave labor, which is free labor, the rich could produce even more. And the less you spent on slaves, the higher the profit. Okay, the North did not have extended growing season like the South did. However, their waterways powered factories which hired workers and enriched cities. And their labor force, the immigrants, worked for almost nothing, so there was no need for slavery in the North. So anti slavery sentiments began to grow. Cause two, tariffs. Because the United States was young and could not afford to go back to war, they passed the Embargo Act of 1807. It says America cannot trade with any other country in the world. Well, that was maybe not the best idea because after realizing this mistake and nearly going bankrupt, the United States passed the Non-Intercourse Act of 1809 that said that they couldn't trade with Britain and France. This act helped the United States industrialize because they could trade with other countries besides Britain and France. So it allowed them to be able to industrialize. So most of this happens, though, in the north due to the fast flowing rivers. And as we know, the fast flowing rivers help produce these machines that run all the factories. Tariffs continued. Coach, why the tariffs? Well, I'm going to explain here. Protective Tariff of 1816. After the War of 1812, the North industrialized and passed the Protective Tariff to stay competitive. And then the South imported most goods from Europe. So they were hit the hardest by the tariff. So let's explain, okay? The effect of a protective tariff. In the United States, American-made cloth sells for $6 per roll. In Britain, British-made cloth sells for $5 per roll. Well, then this British cloth is shipped to the United States, and with our tariff of $1.25 per roll and an addition of 25%, this made the British cloth sell for $6.25 per roll. Therefore, okay, the American companies sold more cotton and it made them more profitable. And so therefore it benefited the North, but not so much in the South because they imported everything. Okay, tariffs continued. Oh man, stop hitting me with these tariffs. Yes, I know, Trey, more tariffs, okay? You too, Michael. And here goes the tariff debate of 1828. And this is the Northern perspective, okay? Well, it helps foreign goods to be more expensive. And in turn, gets more people to buy United States goods. This leads to the profit of northern industrial states and increased business. All right, so the nullification process crisis, okay? Of course, the South wants to nullify these tariffs because they're having to buy all this cloth that is produced from Britain because they don't have any factories. Well, so they call this tariff the Tariff of Abominations. This tariff was the highest in history, and the Southerners were outraged. They refused to pay, and South Carolina threatened to secede. Wait a minute, Coach, it's not even 1861 yet. This is 1828. Well, there were problems, of course. Andrew Jackson threatened martial law if they did. Clause 3, states' rights. Southern states felt that the federal government should not make decisions about states' issues. They wanted to limit the government's say and the running of individual states. The two biggest issues were public land use and slavery. Slavery. Well, the South thought that slavery was necessary to keep their economic system and way of life healthy. Not so. In the North, abolitionists wanted to outlaw slavery. In Texas, you can see that in the area where Austin's colony was at was probably one of the largest concentrations of slaves in Texas. All right, slavery continued. We did already read about the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 in our background essay, and it ruled that people had the right to decide if their state would have slavery by popular sovereignty. Okay, so there's one of those words we have to know. Southerners supported it because it made slavery possible in those territories. So, in other words, the people could decide if they could have slavery or not. Therefore, the Southerners think this should be a state's right as a precedent of the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. Okay, Dred Scott. Dred Scott tried to win his freedom in court since his master moved from a slave state to a free state. Well, the Supreme Court ruled that slaves were not citizens and did not have rights under the Constitution. Hold on, wait a minute. So this guy moves, to a northern state that's free, a free state, and he's still a slave? Wait a minute. Does that mean? Yes, it does. It means that slaves were considered property and not citizens of the United States. And that's how they came to that decision. All right, this is how they were all packed into a boat to get over to the United States. And these are some of the bad things that happened to slaves and just unacceptable. In 1860, Abraham Lincoln won the presidential election, and this caused the secession of the southern states. As you well know and remember, in the southern states, they didn't even have him on the ballot. Oops. Okay, southern states vowed to leave the Union, and they did, forming their own country, the Confederate States of America. Okay, on February 23rd, 1861, Texas voted to secede from the Union. Sam Houston was removed as governor of Texas for refusing to pledge loyalty to the Confederacy. Some of you laugh and scorn the idea of bloodshed as a result of secession, but let me tell you what's coming. Your fathers and husbands, your sons and brothers will be herded at the point of a bayonet. You may, after the sacrifice of millions of treasure and hundreds of thousands of lives, as a bare possibility, win Southern independence, but I doubt it. The North is determined to preserve the Union. When they move in any given direction, they move with steady momentum and perseverance of a mighty avalanche. And what I fear is they will overwhelm the South. February 1861, Sam Houston. Texas was one of the only states to vote on whether or not to secede. On February 23rd, 1861, the people of Texas voted to secede. They removed Houston from office as governor as he refused to sign the oath to the Confederacy. He died thinking himself a failure because his beloved Texas had left the United States of America. All that he feared for Texas and the South came true in the war. All right, there are battles here that are going to be a part of this, and they are the Battle of Galveston, the Battle of Sabine Pass, and the Battle of the Palomino Ranch. Okay, and all these battles, Texas won. Okay, so every battle that was fought in Texas, Texans won. And you will have questions regarding these, so I'll let you get to it.